Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States, and that will have an impact on federal government jobs. But how much? Will he eliminate entire federal agencies or fire hundreds of thousands of federal employees? We're going to take a look at what was said during the campaign trail and also what he did in his past administration, and we're going to figure it out. The first concern is massive job loss. What we're looking at here is a Republican president with a Republican majority Senate and probably a Republican majority House. So that's like the trifecta. During the campaign trail, the rhetoric that was said about reducing the size of the federal government is to energize their base. The Conservative Party believes in small government. So do I think it will come into fruition the way that they were saying it on the campaign trail? No, I don't think so. Let's look at the historic levels of federal employees. And we can see we had 2.8 million federal employees in 1982. The light colored blue here, that's for federal jobs. The navy blue is for state and local government. We had an increase in the early 90s, and today we have under 3 million. This has been pretty flat over the past 40 years. The US population since the 1980s until today has grown about 47%. But if you look at the level of federal employees, that line is pretty much flat. We're at the same level as we were over 40 years ago. And this is through Democratic presidents, this is through Republican administrations. And just to keep the government flat without growing it, you have to hire between 100 and 200,000 new federal employees each and every year because of attrition. Attrition is essentially people that are retiring, or they're jumping back into the private sector, or they're getting out for whatever reason, they're leaving. So you have about 10-15% that leave every single year. Now, back in 2016, we did see Trump decrease the size of some federal agencies like the EPA, the Education Department, and OPM. But the overall government grew by almost a full percent between 2016 and 2020. The way that he was able to decrease these agencies, it was not by terminating people or firing them. It was through attrition. So when somebody would retire or leave the agency was not allowed to backfill that individual. So that position would stay open. The second concern is Schedule F. When you accept your job offer for a federal government job, you are under probation. This is usually 12 months. It could be 24 months. It could be even longer. But after that period of probation, you have appeal rights if you were to ever get terminated. You have protections. So usually your supervisor has to go through a performance improvement plan, and there has to be milestones that are checked along the way. They cannot just fire you. You are no longer an at-will employee. You also have union protection. So Schedule F is a classification which would remove those civil protections for certain federal employees. So which ones are these? This is people that deal with policy and whatever that means, right? So who deals with policy? There's no way it's the GS11 in a cubicle that's shuffling papers. It cannot be that person. We must be looking at somebody that has influence that can actually impact the bureaucratic process. That means probably career level SESs, maybe in some situations GS15s. These individuals are probably more under threat. But looking at the entire federal government, the estimate of people that could end up getting Schedule F, it looks like 50,000 is the number. That's the highest estimate, which would put it roughly between 2 and 3% of the entire federal workforce. The third concern is Elon Musk. Elon Musk has gotten a lot of attention recently for firing over 6,000 people in Twitter when he bought Twitter. Now, Elon Musk has a lot of different companies, from Tesla to SpaceX to Neuralink, and the federal government has been investigating him a lot, especially under Joe Biden. This chart shows the 11 federal agencies that have investigated his companies. This includes Department of Transportation, Department of Justice, and the EPA. If Elon Musk plays a role in this administration, he's probably going to be focused on the regulators and also the efficiency of the federal government. And to most people, that means cutting the size. But we have union protections, we have legal protections, we have appeal rights. So nothing is going to be changing within a period of a few months. It's going to take multiple years. And I don't think the end result is going to be as catastrophic as some people are painting it out to be. I do not envision a doomsday scenario where you have 1 million federal employees that are getting fired. The fourth concern is Project 2025. This is essentially a 1,000-page document. It's a guide for the next conservative president. It was put together by some folks in his last administration. But during the campaign trail, Donald Trump was very adamant about distancing himself from this document. Now, what will happen when he actually gets sworn in? Will he use it or not? We don't know. But in the handbook, there is no specific number of cuts to federal employees. It calls for restructuring federal agencies and streamlining the government process. Now, to a lot of people, when they read that, they assume that that means reducing the overall size of the government, and it could mean that, but we're going to have to wait to see exactly what he does, if anything, with this document. The fifth concern is relocating agencies. In his first term, he was successful in doing this to a small extent. If you look at USDA, the Bureau of Land Management, and the Department of Interior, he was able to move federal employees and offices out of Washington, D.C. into other areas, Colorado and Kansas. So this could continue to happen. And the whole reason behind it is D.C. has been painted as a swamp, and he ran on draining the swamp. So draining the swamp means relocating some of those headquarter buildings and putting them in different areas throughout the country. Now, what we do know is he wanted to move Department of Transportation and FAA, and he wasn't successful in doing that. So maybe he picks up where he left off, and those are the two next agencies that could potentially see some moves. We don't know that yet either, so we're going to have to wait. After the election, several federal employees, they reached out to me and they wanted to know what was going on. They wanted to talk. I talked to this one lady specifically. She's a GS-14. She was just hired in September, and now she's being told that the office, the program that she's working in, it might go away. It might get dissolved due to the election. Now, it doesn't make too much sense in my mind, because to have a program set up and established, you need a budget for it. And nothing changes that quick in the government. It's not like it's gone, it's here one month and then it's gone the next month. That's not the way it works. So if the money's already allocated, I don't see it dissolving. But she was concerned to the extent that she's now going to be looking for private sector jobs. And she was really upset because she had already been hiring people. She was interviewing and hiring people to build up her team. So she feels incredibly stressed out, as I imagine a lot of federal employees, especially the folks who have not completed their probationary time, right? So anybody who's been under a year in their new federal government jobs, there must be an additional layer of stress that you're experiencing. But what I would do in your situation is really just focus on what you can control. That's all you can do during a time of stress and unpredictability. You have to be able to focus on what can I impact, what can I control. If that's looking for another job, that's what it is. Now, do I think your job is in jeopardy? I don't think it's in jeopardy over the next 12 months. And one of the reasons why I advocate so strongly for federal government jobs really is this is a job where you're putting forth your energy, your attention, your effort, and you're getting something back in a way of TSP or pension. So that 5, 6, 7 years from now, if you decide to go do something else, that time isn't lost. You have earned something that's yours forever, for the rest of your life. You can go into retirement, even though the pension can be small. It's a lot smaller than when it was CSRS back in the 80s. Yeah, it's definitely a lot smaller, but it is also one of the only forms of guaranteed money that you can earn. And it's not just federal, like we mentioned, it's all levels of government. I think this plays an important role in the middle class. If you are new to federal government jobs, you probably have a lot of questions on your mind about the federal hiring process, about the salary and the benefits. I did a live stream recently, answered over a dozen questions. A lot of these questions could be on your mind. If you're interested in that, I want you to check this video out next. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.